Good afternoon and welcome to the Day After Podcast, a show where we just kind of putz around, watch something, and talk about it as if our opinion means something. My name's John and I'm here with Haley.
Hello.
And Haley is going to be a little more adept to maybe introduce what we watched today because I'm still parsing it out myself.
Yeah, I don't know about Adept. So we just watched Dear Lie in April, a show that came out towards the end of my high school career, as we call it, and I started watching it in college. Now, I started watching this a while ago, but closer to when it first came out, really expecting it to be La Corte d'Oro, and it's not. It's really not. Just because two shows have to deal with music does not mean that they have anything to do with each other, and that's not a bad thing to either show. But it kind of gave me really weird feelings, just because it was so not what I expected the first time I watched it. So I didn't watch it all the way through.
Okay. I appreciated your piece of information regarding the circumstances under which you first watched this show because you told me it's a 22 episode show. I got probably 13, 14 episodes in, found out this was not the show I was looking for. And even though it's a good show, it wasn't something I was in the mood for.
Yeah,
and put it down.
yeah. With the shit I was dealing with at that time of my life, this was not a show that I could handle at that time.
Telling me.
So I put it down.
Yeah.
And I'd always, when it came out on Netflix, I'd always kind of wanted to watch it again, but I didn't really know, because I was kind of just like about it when I left. I didn't have really any strong feelings about it. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. That's really interesting because I think the best way to do that, to go back in a second watch and get your momentum back, is to bring along somebody, regardless of whether you're married to them. This is a pretty firm melodrama, I think, and I got to be careful about that because usually I reserve melodrama for things I usually don't. I'm not fond of, and
Right.
This, I think, in terms of avoiding that negative stigma, does it okay.
One thing I always respect about Japanese anime in comparison to Western cartoons and really Western TV is how adult it treats its kids. These kids are 14 and they are going through some of the most intense emotions that human beings ever have to deal with. And they tell that and they experience those emotions hand in hand with music. Now, spoiler alert here, John and I are not classical music people. I know who Chopin is, and I know, like...
I didn't tell you I played professional cello for 8 years.
Yeah, we're just not classical music people, so we're not going to connect with it as much as, maybe somebody who has been playing piano their whole life will. We're going to connect with it differently.
If you are a musician out there, please let us know in the comments, like, is this like a Whiplash where you're like, oh yeah, that's really hardcore drumming? Or is it like the core where you're like, that's bullshit?
Yeah, or like, do you, like, I don't know, does it alter your viewing at all? Does it change the range of emotions? Speaking of those emotions, John did say it was a melodrama, and we are dealing with some intense shit here. Things I would praise about the show, number one, it looks gorgeous. It's very pretty.
It's handsome and has a very, I don't want to say color palette, but it chooses its colors carefully.
Yeah.
There are characters that are anime can fall victim to wacky hairstyles and colors, and I think that with the exception of one amiable rival in the show with giant fuck off Beethoven hair.
Yeah.
I think they're mostly done very, very well. All the character designs are very nice. People are attractive without being overt and in your face about it.
Right, and they're 14, and in general with the mannerism, with how these characters look, like purely with how they're drawn, I believe they're 14-year-old kids. These doesn't seem like, you're drawing 18, 19-year-olds who tell you that they're 14 verbally.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that these kids are the age that they are.
Those are good. That's a sign of a good character design. We won't talk about the general story beats because I think it's more a feeling show than a story show. But if you are still here 4.5 minutes in, this is about an insane, not insane in the brain, but an extraordinarily talented young piano prodigy named Ari Makose, who has stopped a couple years ago playing piano, partially because of a not borderline, an abusive mother
Yeah, a very traumatic experience
who
with a terminally ill parent.
who is no longer there. It is
Yes.
and his meeting somebody who inspires him to get back into the musical arts. A lot we learn, we laugh, we cry a lot.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the cool thing about him meeting this girl, Kaori, is that in the first little arc of the series, is the first time you get the sense that Kosei has ever really let himself grieve for his mom. They've had issues. Again, she was mentally and emotionally and physically abusive to him, and but he still has that connection with her and this connection through music, and music is um kind of the connecting piece with all of the sad emotions here. So I really liked that part, and again, I love the very intense emotions these kids go through. Um, a second big arc in the show, not the second, but another big arc in the show is Tsubaki realizing that Tsubaki is Kosei's childhood friend, and realizing that she has feelings for him and she needs to say that or he's going to leave.
That's fine. I found that, especially in the context of having just finished the series, I found that a little underbaked.
Yeah, it was, and we'll get into what I don't like about the show here in a minute. But yeah, that there are issues there, but I still like that it's addressed. I like that she acts exactly like a 14-year-old girl who's just realized she has feelings for somebody, which is freaking the absolute fuck out and
Yeah.
not knowing what to do. I really enjoyed that.
They did a very good job being kind of dicks to each other when it merits it, and just being outright kind of ball busty about it, which was nice and realistic.
Yeah, it was a cool relationship to show without it getting anime tropey, without just being like, oh, I'm gonna beat on him, wail on him all the time, and he'll still come back because whatever.
Yeah.
No, she's starting to grow up a little bit and realize that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third plot point we could talk about, which is if I know we're always about spoilers here, but if you have not seen the show, please leave right now.
Let's leave out the very end here.
Okay.
I'll just state there's the biggest
kind of emotional story beat.
Yeah, it is him experiencing loss in two ways. First with his mom, and then this girl that he's met who might die.
Yes.
And that is him. It's like a textbook foil. It's you had one chance to grieve, try it again.
Yeah, and he learns how to grieve the first time by going through what this girl is going through. And I don't want to take Kaori's character out of this, because what she goes through as a terminally ill patient and constantly trying to look on the bright side of life and realizing how just horribly hard that is, especially when you're 14. That is handled really, really well. So those are the main kind of emotional beats in the story. The last one there being kind of the driving force behind the show.
Can I touch on that?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess.
I'm glad that I followed the show, because as it wraps up him coming to terms with the death of his mother from several years ago, I was so worried it was going to become I forgive mom for what she did.
And there is a little bit of that, because he kind of realizes that hanging on to that is exactly what's stopping him from doing what he loves to do.
Yeah, I guess you could. There's only a certain extent to which you can forgive a deceased person.
Right.
And to forgive is to not allow it to impact your life, which by definition, a deceased person is not impacting your life like you would if you and I had some kind of falling out.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, what his mother did to him was horrible, and her death was traumatic. However, she did raise him, she did teach him piano, and he still had a absolutely vibrant connection with her. So I think to discredit that and not allow him to grieve because of that is...
Yeah, they try not to sympathize her too much, which would have really soured me on the show, and I appreciate that they didn't. I apologize for interrupting you if you had a thought process.
So we talked about the three main emotional beats of the show. The one with Kaori being the most compelling in my opinion. When those emotions are allowed to just breathe and be told through music, the show does really well. It does that about 30% of the time.
The rest of it is Kingdom Heartsing?
The rest of it, not Kingdom Heartsing. Two issues. One, John turned my attention to it. It was like a glass shatter moment. This show suffers from emotional whiplash.
I after about 16 or 17 episodes, I said, Haley, I used to not take your art seriously. I used to kind of dismiss what you liked because it was something you liked, and I promise you, a show this pretty, I'm trying my very best to become involved in those things, and there are very pretty things about this. For a show this pretty and this decently written to have such intense emotional whiplash
Yeah.
is unexcusable. And go ahead.
Now, let me explain what I actually mean by that. So, what I mean by emotional whiplash is they will be talking about something that's hard to deal with, and 14-year-old kids actually do this. There is emotional whiplash in real life. It's just overused. When they're talking about something deep, or they're talking about, let's go visit Calorie in the hospital, or like, hey, what's your outlook like? What are we gonna do here? Very frequently when it starts like really getting serious, Tsubaki like kicks Arima in the shin, or Watery says something stupid, or like some crazy shit happens and completely resetting any emotional package
And it's not just,
that was building up. And I'd be okay with that because again, 14-year-old kids actually do that. But when it happens like 3 times an episode, that's a problem.
think it's not even just the frequency with which it occurs, because in the last episode there are very good, there's like, because there are 3 levels, right? There's serious, there's the I'm mad at you, but I'm well proportioned, my body is, and I'll kick you in the shin, whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's the cartoon puppet show.
Yeah.
And they're at this show's worst, it'll skip that middle phase.
Yeah, and just go straight into crazy, wacky, unrealistic cartoons.
If you've seen Digimon the movie, think about that moment where Davis is crying and then Willis says, Davis, stop crying. Okay.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
It's that bad in some parts. And Tsubaki is not the only one who does this, though it's frequently her. Arima's coach, Hinako, I believe is her name.
Maybe.
The one with the kid. She's also a frequent, she also has this issue frequently. Calorie does this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little more forgiving with her because she's the one living with a terminal disease and maybe doesn't want to talk about it. That I understand, but it's just constant. And so the emotional stuff, while pretty and while it's really, really good, when it's really, really good, when she falls down in the hallway,
at the end of Liar.
Yes, yeah. When you really, really understand that what she has is not getting better and it's getting very worse very quickly. She's walking along a hallway and she falls and she breaks down and she's like, "You're my legs. Why won't you hold me up?" The episode ends there, and that's an example of when it's really good. But that happens like twice, and all the rest is undercut by this crazy emotional whiplash.
Haley's problem.
Yes, my problem with this, and it's an issue
that
it's honestly something I wish La Corte d'Oro had more of. If these two could somehow meet in the middle with this stylistic issue. The show's artsy as fuck.
And by artsy, you have to do something it doesn't have to be Food Wars extreme with the titties coming out, but you have to, an art form you can't see.
Yes.
You need to make something happen to visually get that across. And that's fine. And they have a lot of really cool ideas, mostly involving a perpetuation of anxiety as being underwater or drowning.
Yes.
But when you see these photographs, when you see these images, it feels like they're beginning to purple prose in place.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure what you mean by purple prose.
Just a talk. You say they talk quite a bit.
Yeah. So the characters talk to themselves all the time. So and it's just the show feels like it has to fill every frame with as much as it can. So we have the music playing in the background, we have the characters talking to themselves, and we have all this weird like fancy bubbles and like weird visual shit. That when it's communicating those deep emotions, as you said, Arima dealing with his anxiety and his grief by literally drowning underwater, that's cool. That's interesting. That makes sense. When every time he plays the piano, there's shit flying around him, that's weird.
which made the animation bump in the final two episodes really, like, not poetic, but kind of like refreshingly powerful to just be a gentle pan around a very normal Steinway and Sons trademark safe piano.
Yes.
It was just really nice to have that breathe.
Yeah, and again, when the show lets itself breathe and just lets itself be for a while, there are really, really good things here. Again, it's a beautiful show. But it makes a lot of decisions that keep it from being great, which irks me because it had that potential.
Yeah.
Because there are some good things going on here. Yeah, if you're dealing with recent grief, would not recommend.
Yeah, some content warnings here, but maybe just read the premise, and if that's not for you, you'll find out pretty damn quick that's not what you're looking for.
Yeah, so it's not perfect, but I did enjoy myself. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I hope I enjoyed myself as well. What baffled me the most is that okay, now here comes spoilers.
What again?
Again, here we go. After the mid card of the final episode, I actually said out loud, "Oh my god, they actually killed her."
And I'd kind of seen it coming for a while.
I mean,
like,
sure,
there's only one way this can end.
That's the end goal. I just thought that maybe like the surgery would save her Rock Lee style, but then like in my brain when I thought about that, it fell apart.
Yeah, right. And I really respect the show for doing that. It's very sad. I do also respect that you never find out what she has.
Yeah, I gave up on that probably about 16 episodes in.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's muscular degenerative. That's all that matters. But yeah. So one of the weirder watches we've had, it falls very middle of the road. Like if I not that we rate these here, but if there's so many things keeping it from being a 10, it sits nice and soft around the 6 area.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah,
and it has the problem where individual moments and episodes are better than the whole.
I'm glad that you showed me this because I need to fruiten up my palate, everybody. That has been our review of 2011's Your Lie in April, the anime series, the last 22 episodes. We can't tell you what's coming up next because we don't know. Because while Stanley Kubrick happens, we film a bunch of these and spit them out at random intervals.
Yeah, that's how that's how Hamtaro and all those others happened after you.
We did Hamtaro last fall. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Bye bye.